Good morning everyone. My name is Akesh Gupta and I'm with Lightspeed Solutions. Today in this presentation I will share with you how to publish RNSpeed applications to Windows Azure Cloud environment. Before we can publish RNSpeed applications to Windows Azure Cloud environment, it is important to make sure that the application they're using SQL Azure, which is also demonstrated in one of my prior videos. Please make sure to watch that and convert your applications to use SQL Azure before pushing them to the Windows Azure Cloud. To begin with, what we will share here with you folks is an environment where we have taken the same RNSpeed application that we have been playing with, which is our CRM solution. Open that project in Visual Studio, and just to make sure that everything is working, and of course we want to double check to make sure it is still talking to your SQL Azure. As you can see, it is still talking to SQL Azure, and let's try to run the application to make sure it's working. We do not need to do any debugging or anything, so we'll just basically run the application this time, and we will make sure the application works. We can log in, we can see our data, and so on. And from what I can see my data. Before we can actually deploy the RNSpeed applications to the Windows Azure Cloud, it is important to install certain programs, and those programs are really part of the Microsoft Web Platform Installer. Microsoft Web Platform Installer is a free tool which you can download from the internet, and one of the options there is to install Azure solutions within Visual Studio 2010. We have already done that, and that's why we already have those things installed in our RNSpeed Designer, not RNSpeed Designer, but Visual Studio 2010. As far as this tool is concerned, we will just let it run, and then when it comes up, I will share with you which tools are necessary, and then we'll talk about it. So the first and foremost thing we have to do here is, of course, we basically want to log into our Azure Cloud, and as you can see, we have a database, which is fine, the same old database we were running before with the same database, and the CRM was the database that we were using. As far as the hosted services, storage accounts, and the CDNs, we have not yet published any hosted services or storage accounts. We have an active 3-month trial membership. That's basically what we are using here. So the very first thing we are going to do here is, in order to deploy this to Azure Cloud, we need to add an Azure project. So if you want, we can basically, or in order to do that, we will basically go by starting to add a new project, and we will select a cloud Windows Azure project, and I'm going to just click OK, and let's name it My CRM. It is very important to sorry, it says My CRM already exists. Let's just get rid of it. Must be doing some practice before. That's where it was left over. So let's just add My CRM. This window that pops up where system asks for new Windows Azure project, it is very important to leave this window blank. We do not want to select any Windows Azure project at this present time, and we'll just click OK. What system is going to do is, system is going to add a My CRM, and there are no roles defined. So what we're going to do is, in the roles option, we are going to basically add the web role project which we have in the solution. So I'm going to just basically select Add Web Role Project and Solution, and select our original CRM application in it. Having done that, the other thing you have to also validate here is that all the references have a local copy, except for, of course, the .NET Framework, because that is already installed on the cloud. So as you can see, there are a lot of tools between Ajax Toolkit and Report. We need to make sure they're all basically have a local copy set to true. So we have to make sure we click on each one of them, and if the copy local is set to false, make sure you turn it back on for all of these. It is very, very important, because every single thing is going to get compiled, and system will not be able to find the files on the cloud if you do not put this option on. And some options were like CRM Business and CRM Data were already set to true, so we don't have to do anything there. But all the other ones we are basically going to convert. As you can see, reCAPTCHA was already set to true, report was set to false, we'll turn it back to true. As far as the systems and anything beyond, that's all part of the .NET Framework, so we don't have to worry about it. Let's just make sure we can build it. Everything should work fine. imagine. I think it did rebuild fine successfully. I think it's going pretty okay. Alright, the second thing which we have to be very careful about here is that certain files, if I select the project CRM, I have to make sure that certain directories are included. In order to do that, we will basically make sure we click on show all files icon, and as you can see, some of the directories are hidden. There are two folders which must be included. One is the app themes, because we definitely need the theme to be deployed into the cloud, as well as app global resources. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to include both of these two folders into my project. And so app global resources and app themes, which were disabled, or not disabled but hidden by default, we basically have brought them to be included. And I believe that's more or less all we have to do. Just to give you guys some more background, the best way to publish is either we can package it. So if you go to the cloud project, I have certain options. One is package. Of course, if you package, then you can go and manually publish it. But if the tools have already been installed, you can definitely publish it directly. So let's go with that route. We can say publish. What's going to happen here is, let's actually begin with removing everything. So what you will see is the very first publish page will be totally blank. We do not have any subscription that we are aware of. In order to do that, we have to click on sign in to download the credentials. We have to basically sign in to our Windows Azure account. If you're already logged in, system will take us in. Should. Let's just make sure it does. If it does not, we can basically sign out, close this window, and click on it again. What system is going to do is this system is going to try to log me in. Of course, I'm logged out, so I basically have to go in and log into my Azure platform. Once you log into Azure platform, the system will take you to a page where you can download the settings or the certificate, which is what we need before we can publish directly. While that page is coming up, just as a side note, if you notice, if I click on my web platform installer, I have certain tools which were already installed. Windows Azure SDK, and some other tools have already been installed. We will probably refer back to this page again. So what system is doing is it's basically right now trying to log into my profile and trying to give me a file which will be basically for my publishing settings. So this way we know it's all authenticated. We're still waiting for the file. Of course, if the file doesn't download automatically, we can click here. Let's just go that route. Hopefully that will be quicker. There you go. We can save the certificate on the root of C. Let's just do that pretty quickly. Now that we have saved it on the root of C, I can close this page. We still have the application running fine, and I can import the same publish certificate that we just got from there, and I have my 3 months free trial membership shown. The very next thing we will do is we will basically select what is the name of our hosted services. Since we don't have any hosted services yet, let's name first one as Lightspeed Cloud, and we can put it in anywhere in the US. So system is going to go tell my Windows Azure Cloud option to go and create one of the hosted services account as well as one of the storage accounts. So it's for Lightspeed Cloud, production, release, clouds, default settings. Let's enable remote desktop so that this way in case we have to log in, we can. And same rules will apply here. So the same password 1 probably will work. And as far as we are concerned, we can basically just say enable web deploy, which means we will automatically deploy it to the cloud. So I think these were all the settings we had to do. Of course, what that will lead me to, let's actually log into Windows Azure account. So this way we can visualize what's going to happen. What's going to happen is let's just log into our account. We are in. and let's go manage our account. System will automatically create one hosted services for me, and within hosted services it will have my certificates and so on. So let's actually go through the drill and see what exactly happens. What I'm sharing with you here is as if nothing was ever set up. So of course, if you already have your hosted services and storage accounts, you can pick an existing one if you want to deploy the instance of this application in an existing hosted service. As you can see, by me clicking on it, I was able to create one Lightspeed Cloud, which was created already, as well as one storage account, same name, Lightspeed Cloud, just all lowercase. That basically is being created right now. So to make the long story short, let's basically go ahead and click publish. Now what system is going to do for me is really build the entire solution and then automatically communicate with our Windows Azure Cloud, publish all the files that are needed, as well as create an instance. So this way that instance will basically have every single thing all set and all set. So as you can see, we are able to see at the bottom that we are deploying my CRM solution to the Lightspeed Cloud in production mode. Depending on the speed of the machine as well as speed to the internet and how busy the cloud Azure server is, it can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. While this setup is going on, we can definitely see the progress being made on the side of Azure. And as you will see, right now we have a cloud, which is a hosted service, which has one certificate, which is basically the certificate we are using to make sure that it's authenticated. And pretty soon you will see system will start creating the hosted server. Since it's Silverlight, it does not show everything instant. You kind of have to wait sometimes for up to 30 seconds for screen to refresh. Let's make sure there's nothing else going on right now. So far so good. Everything is looking pretty good. As I shared with you folks, it is very important to make sure all the references are set to local, as well as some of the hidden folders should be definitely converted to be included. Those were the two major challenges that we faced when we were trying to play with RNSpeed apps and their inability to go to Windows Azure Cloud. So far things are looking okay. Of course, you can always expand it here and it will show you a lot more details what exactly is happening. It is basically trying to say it starts connecting. It was uploading certificate, which we saw certificate was already there. It verified that the storage account Lightspeed Cloud was there. It was uploading a package, and now it was basically creating a new deployment. Since now it's saying this deployment was created and it's now starting, you will definitely see my new CRM, the deployment is being created in a production environment, and then it will have an instance of my application. And as you can see, your deployment is being created. It will have a role. Role is kind of the application. Think of that way. And instance is one instance of this application. Of course, for redundancy's sake, Windows Azure recommends that you have at least 2 different instances. So this way, if one instance is unavailable, the second can definitely provide the backup services automatically. And if you look at the deployment, every deployment will basically have a role, and we basically need to find out what is the like the IP address or the URL for me to hit my application, which basically we just have to wait for it to finish. Let's just make sure we'll just check the studio. As you can see in Studio, it created the deployment, it's starting, it's initializing. The instance 0 of the role CRM is an unknown state right now because it has not able to communicate yet. Now it's saying instance 0 of role CRM is creating the virtual machine. So things are looking pretty good here so far. Let's just hope everything goes well. So far everything is looking good. It usually takes less than 5 minutes based on what we have done so far with all of our examples. Of course, so this is when we are letting Windows 2010 automatically publish. But if that was not the case, you could always basically create the package files, and then when you basically talk about new staging deployment and so on, as you will see, system will basically ask you for whatever the name of the deployment is, what's the package location, and what's the configuration file. If you would have just done the publication by just pressing the Windows Azure Project and say pub and package, those are the two files that system would really create. And so basically you will go in, give the name of the deployment, whatever name you want to give, as well as the two locations of the as well as the two files which were created as part of the package, and it will do the same thing. So it's 6 or half a dozen, any way you wish. It all depends how you feel comfortable. It seems like I'm noticing that now my CRM instance, which is really like a virtual machine, it's now really starting. Of course, depending on the load that is at the Windows Azure side, sometimes this can take a little while, because if there are a lot of requests in the queue, you may have to wait for your queue to basically be fulfilled. On the side of the Visual Studio, every single thing is basically saying it was creating the virtual machine. Probably, yes, we can see it definitely finished it, because now it's starting the virtual machine. So the virtual machine is still getting to be started. It should be no more than a few more minutes. So we can definitely look at our web platform installer that we basically were looking at some of the other things. It's not actually giving the Windows Azure SDK. Basically what I did last time, I basically just searched for Azure, and as you can see, we have installed Windows Azure SDK, Windows Azure SDK for .NET, that's for JavaScript, .NET, and Azure libraries. These were the three components we had installed to get these options within the Visual Studio 2010. So I'm just going to exit it. It is now basically still starting the same machine. Let's see what's going on. It's still starting the host. I think it started at 8:27 and it's around 8:34 right now, so we definitely know that probably 7 minutes have passed, or 8 minutes have passed so far. For those of you who are basically trying to decide whether we should go with Windows Azure type services, or whether we should go with the Amazon Cloud. Amazon Cloud is really more like having your own virtual machines. They basically are a bit different than the Windows Cloud concept. You can definitely look into the Amazon S3 Cloud as well, but that deployment is really very similar to installing it on a production server. It's not really like you're pushing to a cloud environment per se. So right now, as you can see, system is trying to start the application or a role in our case, and as soon as the role will start, it will basically be able to give us the URL. Then we can hit the URL, and we basically have successfully deployed the application to the cloud. So it seems like from both sides same information is coming through. I would imagine it should be pretty quick from here. And as you can see, for the deployment, I have been assigned now an IP address. So that will be my IP address. And these are the port numbers which are open. So port 80, port 3389 is for RDP. I'm not 100% sure what was port 817244 for, but definitely port 80 and port for RDP have been made kind of available. So just to get things ready, we can definitely open up another browser and just make sure we type the same IP. This probably will not respond till the role has successfully started. But so far things are looking like they are moving in the right direction, at least. There must be a lot of requests on the server side. So we just have to probably wait right here. This was the concept when you really want to publish. If you are making changes, then the concept is a little bit different, because then you really are only doing an update. You are not really publishing a whole new instance or a whole new deployment with the role. So the updates are a bit different. Please refer to the Windows Azure documentation, how to basically update an existing role or existing application in the Windows Azure Cloud. Steps are very similar, just a few different ways to get the changes to the production. And of course right here we basically have other things happening where we can have multiple instances and failovers and so on. I'm not going to get into all of these discussions. Similar to that, Azure SQL allows us to have multiple SQL instances, and then you can create what we call as like a data sync services, and this way you can copy all the data from one SQL Azure server to another SQL Azure server. Please take a note that in the cloud environment, every single thing is costing depending on what resources you're using. So if you are going to be using the Azure Cloud, and if you do not need the machine for certain times, please shut them down. Otherwise, the consumption is going on, which basically will relate to your charges. Seems like it is still going on right now. I hope it gets done soon. I do not see any error messages, so which is really positive, because from the very beginning every single thing has worked out pretty well. Since it's a free trial kind of account, that's why the machine size is small. Depending on which machine you pick, you can definitely have a lot more resources. In case it's going to be an application which will require a lot more resources, you can definitely opt for it. But under the free account, just for trial purposes, we are only limited to a small machine. This time the wait is just for the instance to be up and ready. It's still not done. Seems like we are almost touching 15-minute time frame based on from when we started to where we are as of right now. So do expect around 15 minutes of time if it is the first time you are basically creating every single thing from scratch. um, and it's not uncommon. I'm just trying to see if there's any error messages anywhere. I do not see any errors or warnings. That's why I'm pretty positive it's just a little bit of a delay. And there's no way to predict what was a good time or a bad time to make a video. So just, I guess, folks, it is just the luck of the draw that their servers must be pretty busy in fulfilling our requests at this present time. Please keep in mind that this has nothing to do with once the server is up and running, its response time. These are basically the requests which are going into cloud for provisioning purposes. Once the servers are provisioned, they are more like a production server, which means they basically are all set to go. We're anxiously waiting at this present time. We know definitely the server has been provisioned and IP has been assigned. I'm just trying to basically try to see if I can get lucky and get our website coming up sooner than later. Still no luck. What I'm going to do is I'm going to probably pause the recording at this present time, and I will actually pick up the recording as soon as we see that it's provisioned. So please hold. Alright folks, here as you can see at 8:49 we finally got the message that our application was successfully deployed to the cloud. If we basically go ahead and look at our the Azure platform, it is still basically saying it's stabilizing, but since I got the message that was successfully deployed, I can basically take the IP address and try to open up a web URL, and this at this present time will be available at all the places, internally as well as externally, and as you can see we are on the cloud. So let's try to make sure, and let's see, we type in the username, our password, and Houston, we have landed. So we have successfully deployed our first IronSpeed application to the cloud, and with this I conclude this video. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to sharing more ideas with you folks, and if you have any suggestions, please feel free to check the IronSpeed forums for more details. Thank you.